Hey, what's going on, guys? It's White Gaming, back again with some more Survive the Nights. And today, it looks like you're getting a double STN intake. How good is that shit, man? This is good. This is very good. It's been a busy week for Survive the Nights, with 1.9 hitting the experimental only on Thursday, I think it was, and now it is already coming over to the stable branch. And today what we're going to do is go over the patch notes for Alpha 1.9, which is sort of like a little dev blog as well, so there's quite a bit to go over here. So buckle up, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and if you're a fan of Survive the Nights, join the Discord as well, because there's a big group of us on there that occasionally play together, and every now and then we all jump on and we'll stream. It's fun stuff. Come say hello. All the links are down in the description below. Same for all of the Survive the Nights links, all in the description. Make sure you check them out. Now, they're releasing the 1.9 update to the default Steam branch today. This update focuses entirely on player-reported bugs and quality of life issues. Whilst it's not our last quality of life update, in fact you'll see quite a few more in the coming months. We've tried to get a nice chunk of issues sorted here and done so quicker than our typical update cycle. We'll be following this quality of life with another as soon as possible, and we'll discuss more of exactly what we're doing in the coming dev vlogs. James has put together a vlog for this update, but it's not quite ready yet, and we didn't want to hold up on the build, so expect that in the next couple of days. Now below we will go over some of what's gone into 1.9. As always, follow along via the changelog for up-to-date information. Now the changelog is in the description below. That is pretty much a long-ass list of every single thing that they're working on and when they expect for those items to be completed. So it's 100% worth checking out, especially if you're a big fan of the game. You'll be able to see what's coming in the future, and it's quite nice, and it's a helpful little guide of when you might possibly see those things. Also, if you haven't joined their Discord, drop some suggestions, because these guys are open to feedback and they love it. The more feedback they've got, the better they can make the game for every single one of us, so make sure you do that. Now, let's get stuck in and go over these patch notes. There is quite a lot to go over here. First off, we are starting with inventory improvements. While we really do love our clean HUD and lack of anything on the screen at most times, it can be really frustrating and rather confusing when your stats get critically low. This week, James has set out to improve this issue. In coming 1.9 build, you'll notice these changes. Any critical stat will show on the screen. This should help when it comes to knowing exactly what's going on. You'll be far less likely to get caught out when you see a critical stat pop. Along with this improvement, James has implemented the ability to adjust stats directly from the stat readout in the inventory booklet. You'll notice a search function now when hovering over any of the available stats. This really speeds up the process, making sorting through the inventory for a required item far less time consuming and tedious. Now, as some of you may notice in the background, we have little bits from the dev blog and gameplay of the update going at the same time, so you can pretty much see what it's like in game and what it's like with the actual update. So yeah, it's hopefully it's helpful. It's something a little bit different. I've not tried it before. Normally I've got random bits of gameplay footage going, but we've mixed it up a little bit. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. I'd appreciate that. The lock improvements. If you play the game, you know it can be a real pain to open a fully locked structured door. It's also no walk in the park to open a container with more than a single lock. Our lock mechanics have been improved, and James has introduced a system that allows the players to open all locks on a structure, door or container all at once. In 1.9, all locks that a player has access to are now automatically unlocked where possible. They will also relock in the event that they were unlocked using the new system. The main consideration when adding this was regarding the chunkiness without adding complexity. Initial concepts introduced a hold function on doors, containers, but this required extra hover information and added a step to opening the door, which arguably made things once again clunky. Ultimately, James implemented the lightest weight system possible and given the easiest use possible. For all intents and purposes, the player shouldn't have to learn anything for this system to work. It should make the locks feel like a supplement overall instead of a required hindrance. And I've got to agree, it does. It's so much better having all of those locks go at once. It makes life so much simpler. Next up, we've got crafting improvements. We have taken some feedback from the community via discussions and tickets, and James has made the quality of life improvements with our crafting system, just adding a bit of polish to the system, making it more user-friendly and intuitive. Some of the improvements made: buttons for cycling through the all, favourites and help tabs are now toggled, and the search field no longer clears all the craftables. Now when searching, you'll start with a full list and the search will narrow down the field. You'll notice tools and recipe item icons can now be selected to navigate to the item's recipe. This adds a good deal of fluidity to the system, and the greyed out items are now highlighted to make it clear you can still view the item's recipe. There's a lot going on with the system, and we can and will improve more as we move forward. The first video will showcase some of these improvements. I do like the new general improvements to the crafting system. I think is quite cool. It's simple. It's just that little something that makes it a little bit easier, especially for the newer players. And you pretty much when you want to go through and find out what there is and what you can actually do and play around with. So it does work. It's quite nice. It's very nice. Now, along with general improvements, James has added nested craftables. You'll no longer need to back out and search for a recipe's missing ingredient. The player can now simply click the icon or ingredient to be directed to its crafting recipe. This should save a great deal of time and makes things feel just that little bit more user friendly. It's nice. It is. It's very user friendly. But next up is something that's fucking beautiful. And I absolutely loved playing with this. You may have noticed if you watched the video that came out earlier on today with the weapon testing that we did, the weapon sight improvements. The community has been mentioning the zoom and blurry scopes issues. Andre has spent time this week improving all of the scopes in game. He has reduced the amount of zoom in the APOG and compact scopes and increased the amount of field of view is zoomed in instead. This allows for more screen area to be taken up by the scope and for less pixelation caused by the magnification shader. Doing so also required some of our FPS models to be tweaked to accommodate the new zoom methods. Now, I don't know what most of that means, but what I do know is that the zoom now looks much better than what it used to. You can actually see what you're zooming in, and it makes for that mid-range combat with the ARG pretty simple. You can actually see what you're shooting at. It's nice. I like it. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will too. And new stat UI. We've reworked the entire inspect notification system, making quite a few improvements along the way. We've redesigned status notifications and reorganized them. This has made them both more compact and sleek, along with being more consistent with the inventory booklet. This change makes the stats look less like a hotbar. Along with these visual changes, we've also improved the functionality of the inspect menu. The player will be made aware of the most critical stat and now have a hotkey option to open the inventory stat specific item list. If you're low on calories and you've got a blinking calorie stat, pressing G will open the inventory and show anything you can eat. In conclusion, we feel these changes make the entire feature more useful and sleeker. That rhymes. Amazing. Well done, boys. The updates are in real time and the player can more easily understand at a glance just what's going on. Next week we'll showcase the weapon UI improvements. There are more UI changes you'll notice in 1.9, and if you have any suggestions, please feel free to share them. Player death improvements. We've had some long-standing and highly reported and very annoying backpack issues. They mostly revolve around the player's death and how and what happens to their backpacks and weapons. We've had issues with floating backpacks and big trouble when players are killed inside vehicles, more so if they're moving. The fix for the vehicle issue was considered from the implementation of time versus the end result. The solution we landed on works and was quick to implement. The player is now moved to the step out position as they die, and the ragdoll and backpack spawn at that location. The alternative would have been to parent or join the ragdoll to the vehicle, or animate him in a dead state and somehow attach the back to the player inside the vehicle. This would have been a massive can of worms and could be something to consider for future perhaps. As it stands, this system works much better and you should see far less issue around the backpacks in general. One really good thing with the backpacks that they've done as well is backpacks now, when you die, your weapons actually go inside. So they're not floating and you pick up, say, one weapon and everything just drops to the floor. It does make things feel a lot better and look a lot better. With continued placement, the community has asked for this for some time now. Currently, the player opens the inventory and places a free-placed fortification. The player then needs to open the inventory window again to place another one. James has come up with a way to easily implement continued placement while you have multiple of the same item. The solution does rely on you adding items to the world, but because of the implementation is tiny, the player can continually place the fortification they've selected until they press escape, or you run out of that fortification. This change should make placing fortifications more fluid and less of a chore. If you have any suggestions for further improvements to the placements, please feel free to share your ideas below. To be fair, I think they've nailed that on the head. The improvements to that are absolutely amazing. I love it. It's so much smoother. You just literally plonk everything down. It's so much better than what it was. You don't have to keep going into the inventory, back out, in, out, you know, so on and so forth. Next up is something that's very cool, something that I thought was amazing, and that is weapon melee attacks. When zombies are all over you and too close to fire at, you can now use weapons for a melee attack. Many of our supporters have requested this feature, and Andre and John have sorted it out for 1.9. Melee attacks are automatically assumed when AI or players are too close to each other. You'll automatically smack Zeds unless you aim down sights. We feel the best solution, as it still allows the player to see as they see fit. It's incredibly useful when you've run out of ammo and don't have a melee weapon. Now, I didn't like this idea at first, but once I've got a little bit of gameplay with it, it's actually pretty damn cool. I really do like how it works. It's fun to just smack zombies in the head with the butt of a gun and just see the splatter as well. It's a really cool little feature. And finally, we have harvest improvements. And as some of you may know, the world is very interactable. From trees to fences, a lot of what you can see can be interacted with in one way or another. The issue for some is they're not aware of this, perhaps due to the fact that it's not common in games. We set out to make nearly everything you see usable in some sense, and will continue to improve and develop that feature. In 1.9, you'll notice that harvestable props are now highlighted, and Andre has created this system, and I've spent the last week or two getting back into the project and adjusting to the new harvest machines, to existing props that previously didn't serve a purpose. Now this is an absolutely amazing feature, especially if you're new to the game. I remember when I first started, it was so hard just running around and you never bloody knew what you could touch. Now this feature, it highlights every single item that is harvestable, and it makes it so much easier. It's amazing. It's a lot better than what it used to be. This game is just getting better and better. I love it. I love it. Now, the patch notes here are very, very long, so we're not going to go through them. Everything that you really need to know has just been in that first bit there. There are a couple of little bits that are, you know, out there, but it's not really anything that you won't notice when you're playing. Some things along the lines of just batteries added to bars and barber locations and random little bits that they're quite good, but you'll notice them as you're playing, and they're not that interesting to go through. If I sat and went through this whole thing, we would be here for a very long time. They have added and changed a lot of stuff, but everything I've just gone over is the main bulk of it. If you do want to read the patch notes, or you do want me to cover the patch notes in full, every little bullet point, then let me know and I will get on it, and I'll get it out to you. But I don't see the point in me going through, let's say, half an hour of reading out bullet points. I think you guys will probably get a little bit bored. But for today, that is it from me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. Make sure you check out 1.9. Drop a like on the video. Go review Survive the Nights on Steam. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.